أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، حمدا كثيرا طيبا طاهرا مباركا فيه، وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا من لدنك علما نافعا يا أرحم الراحمين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. أما بعد. All praise is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and peace and blessings be upon His beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Inshallah ta'ala, before we begin, just a reminder for the brothers and sisters, inshallah, that today marks the beginning of the 10 days of Dhul Hijjah. And the 10 days of Dhul Hijjah are days in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made virtues or great virtues within these days. When Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that there were no days more beloved to Allah than the 10 days of Dhul Hijjah. There are no days that the righteous action and the actions are more beloved to Allah than the 10 days of Dhul Hijjah. They said not even jihad in the sake of Allah. He said not even jihad, except the person who leaves with his body and his finances, his wealth, and returns with nothing. So the days of the Hijjah, which is these 10 days that we are in now, which began today, Friday, Thursday night, Friday day, these days are the days in which the righteous actions are most beloved to Allah. Meaning that the option of what to do in these 10 days is open, so long as it is a righteous action, an act of worship or so forth. So the person wants to fast these 10 days, they can fast, except for the 10th day, of course, because that's Eid. The 10th day of the Hijjah is the day of Eid, which will be Sunday. Not this Sunday, the Sunday that is after it, inshallah ta'ala. So any righteous action throughout these days are most beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it's a way for you to prove the claim that you love Allah. Because when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that these days are most beloved to Allah, then the righteous believer, the person who has believed, will respond in wanting to do the best actions because they are most beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Also is the udhiyah. To perform the udhiyah, if you have intention, udhiyah is wajib. On the opinion of the Ahnaf, udhiyah is wajib, is obligatory on the family that has sufficient enough funds, 1 sheep per family, or 1 sheep per person if they have reached the age of puberty and they are self-sufficient. And they are self-sufficient, meaning that they spend on themselves. Or 1 for a family, the father or the man of the family, he has to only do 1 for his whole family. For his wife, his kids, you just have to do 1. That's the minimal. The person can do as many as they want. But the minimal is to do 1. Now that intention that you have to do udhiyah in the 10 days that we are in now, prior to the qurban or the udhiyah being slaughtered, it is sunnah not to clip your nails or cut your hair. It is sunnah not to clip your nails or to cut your hair until the slaughtering is done. Usually the slaughtering is done after Salatul Eid. After Salatul Eid, people pray Eid, they finish, then the slaughtering is done. So until then, from now until then, it is sunnah to refrain from cutting the nails or clipping the nails or cutting the hair. And this is a sunnah mu'akkada for the person to do, which is a highly recommended act of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the udhiyah in itself is a very righteous action as well. And as we said, in the opinion of the Ahnaf, it's obligatory on the person who has the wealth and has the means to do so. And you look at the prices today, to do an udhiyah from Australia is probably the cheapest in the world. And you have udhiyahs or qurban that are as cheap as $60, $80, $100. To do an udhiyah overseas, to do an udhiyah in the Arab countries, it's much more expensive than that. So alhamdulillah, it's easy for us here. And the person, don't just limit yourself to 1. You're able to do more, do as much as you can, because it's all going for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's with regards to the Qurban. Make the intention to do so, and pay it as quickly as you are able to. When does the time of Qurban finish? At the Maghrib of the third day of Tashriq, which is the 14th, or which is the 13th of Dhul Hijjah. The 10th of Dhul Hijjah is Eid, then 11, 12, 13 are Ayyam al-Tashriq. The days of Tashriq, the days after the day of Eid, until the Maghrib of the third day of Tashriq, the Qurban, the Udhiyah can be given. Different to the Sadaqatul Fitr. Sadaqatul Fitr has to be given before Salatul Eid. Udhiyah can be delayed until the third day of Eid. But if you delay it, that means you're delaying also clipping and cutting the hair if you're following or if you're implementing that sunnah, which is also highly recommended. طيب, inshallah ta'ala, today we'll be speaking about tayammum and wiping over the khuf and so forth. Tayammum is what we call dry ablution. Dry ablution. And the definition of it in the Shari'i terminology is to wipe the face and the hands using a pure substance from the earth. مسح الوجه واليدين بصعيد طاهر. Wiping the face and the hands with a pure substance from the earth. And tayammum has been made permissible when there is an absence of what? Water. When there is an absence of water. As we know, in order for us to do every prayer, to pray every salat, we have to make sure that we make our wudu if we've lost our wudu. And the way that we make wudu is by using what? By using water. We wash our hands, our face, our arms, our head, our feet, and so forth. And that's what we call wudu. But if the person doesn't have water, or is in a place that he doesn't find water, does it mean that they don't pray? No, that means that they do tayammum. And this is to show, from one side, is to show the rahmah of Allah, that if you're not able to use water, either due to sickness or to fear, as we'll go through each one, or because there is no water, there's absent. The person's stuck in the middle of nowhere and there's no water around. So it's a rahmah that, okay, you don't have to kill yourself to find water. If you're going to miss out on the prayer, you just do tayammum. And then you pray, and that's sufficient enough. You don't have to repeat that prayer. On the other hand, it shows you the importance of salat itself. Meaning that even in the absence of water, you still have to what? You still have to pray. You still have to make tayammum and pray. There's no excuse. No excuse for the person missing out on their salat or not praying. And even if there's no water, you make tayammum. And tayammum is to lift the small impurity and the large impurity. Meaning that if a person needs to make ghusl, needs to have a shower, then they can also make tayammum. They can also make tayammum. They don't have to do their whole body, but the same thing. They do their face and their hands, as we'll come to see. With regards to the proof for the legitimacy of tayammum is in the Qur'an. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He said, وَإِن كُنْتُم مَرْضَى أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ أَوْ جَاءَ أَحَدٌ مِّنكُم مِّنَ الْغَائِطِ أَوْ لَمَسْتُمُ النِّسَاءَ فَلَمْ تَجِدُوا مَاءً فَتَيَمَّمُوا. If one of you is sick or traveling or has come from using the bathroom or has gone near their wives and they cannot find water, then what do? فَتَيَمَّمُوا. Then use or perform tayammum. صَعِيدًا طَيِّبًا. As-sa'id here is the earth. طَيِّبًا, pure, meaning that it should not have any najasa in it. Should not have any impurity in it. As for the sunnah, and Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he says, أُعْطِيتُ خَمْسًا لَمْ يُعْطَهُنَّ أَحَدٌ مِّن قَبْلِ. I was given 5 things, and Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, that no other prophet or messenger had been given them before. The first one, نُصِرْتُ بِالرُّعْبِ مَسِيرَةَ شَهْرٍ. I was given victory by placing, Allah will place the fear in the heart of the enemies, the marching of a month. Yani a month prior he would march, the fear would be in the hearts of his enemies, of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. وَجُعِلَتْ لِيَ الْأَرْضُ مَسْجِدًا وَطَهُورًا. And the land, the dirt, has been made for me a masjid, and tahura, a purification. So anywhere or any man from my ummah, أدركته الصلاة فليصلي. The time for prayers come, they pray. The previous nations, they could not pray except if it's in a specified place for prayer. As for the ummah of Muhammad, wherever we find or wherever we are, we pray. So long as it's not what? There's no najasa. So long as there's no impurity. Masjidan wa tahura. Tahura means purification. The third one is أحلت لي الغنائم ولم تحل أحد من قبلي. The beauty of war was made permissible to the Prophet ﷺ, and it was never permissible for anyone or any of the prophets before. Meaning that they couldn't benefit from the beauty of war, but the Ummah of Muhammad was given the what? The permissibility to do so, to benefit from the beauty of war. وَأُعْطِيتُ الشَّفَاعَةِ, and is given the what? الشَّفَاعَ الْكُبْرَى, the intercession of the Prophet ﷺ on the Day of Judgment. When everyone will be going to the different prophets and messengers, and each of them will say, عَلَيْكَ بِمُحَمَّد, go to Muhammad. And then Muhammad ﷺ, he will be given the shafa'ah. And it will be said by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, اسأل تعطى واشفع تشفع. Ask and you'll be given, intercede and your intercession will be accepted. And then Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, ummati, ummati, my nation, my nation. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will accept the interceding of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And also the last, وَكَانَ كُلُّ نَبِيٍّ يُبْعَثُ إِلَىٰ قَوْمِهِ خَاصَّةً. All the previous prophets and messengers would be sent to their people, especially. وَأَنَا بُعِثْتُ لِلنَّاسِ كَافَّةً. And I've been sent to what? To everyone, to all people until the Day of Judgment. For the message of the Prophet ﷺ is the final message. So his message is to everyone. Also, it was narrated by Amr ibn al-As that when one of the expeditions, he woke up and was in need to perform ghusl. He says, احتلمت في ليلة باردة. He had a wet dream in a very cold night. Amr ibn al-As radiallahu anhu says, so I feared that if I was to make ghusl with water, it's not like they had a hot tap, turn on the hot tap and have a shower. He said, I feared that if I had a shower with the water, the cold water, that I would die. So I made tayammum. Then I prayed salat as imam with my companions. Then when we came to Prophet ﷺ, they mentioned it to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and he said, Ya Amr, sallayta bi ashabik wa anta junub. He said, Ya Amr, you prayed imam in front of your companions and you were on janaba and you had a need to perform ghusl. He said, then I remembered the verse of Allah where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ, and do not bring yourself to demise, do not kill yourself. إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ بِكُمْ رَحِيمًا. Verily Allah is most merciful upon you. Then I made tayammum and I prayed. فَضَحِكَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ وَلَمْ يَقُلْ شَيْئًا. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he smiled until his teeth could be seen and he didn't say anything. And sukut al-Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is what we call sunnah taqririyah. When Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is silent on a hukum shar'i, on an Islamic ruling, something happens and he remains silent, that silence is what? Acceptance. Because the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam doesn't remain silent on something that is what? That is wrong, or that is haram, or that is not acceptable. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is what? He would speak and he would say, and he would reveal. And then if the revelation came later, he would reveal it to them, and that hukum would be what we call abrogated. So here also the hadith of Amr ibn al-As. Another hadith of another companion, when it was Umar radiallahu anhu and Ammar bin Yasir. And Ammar bin Yasir had the same thing, woke up and was in need to perform ghusl. So Ammar bin Yasir, he said, to make tayammum instead of wudu, you do the hands and you do the face and so forth, as we'll come to mention. So what did he do? He lay down on the ground and he turned around on the ground, on the dirt, to make sure that the dirt gets onto his whole body. When they came back to the Prophet ﷺ, he said, no, it was sufficient enough for you to do what? Your hands and your face. Your hands and your face. Also Abu Dharr radiallahu anhu, he said, as-sa'idu at-tayyib wudu al-Muslim, the pure substance from the ground, is the what? Is the purification of the Muslim, even if he was not to find water for 10 years. Even if that person was not to find water for 10 years. And who can you say, and you fall under this category sometimes? People who are imprisoned. People who are imprisoned. Some people who are imprisoned, they keep water intentionally away from the person so that they doesn't perform wudu. They'll keep water away, they'll give them sufficient enough water just for them to what? To drink. And they'll keep water away from them so that they don't make wudu. But subhanAllah, the Muslimin, we have tayammum. The person is able to do what? Tayammum. So even if the person can't find water for 10 years, it's sufficient enough for them to make tayammum for every prayer. So here, from the hadith and from the ayat, we see the legitimacy of tayammum. What are the conditions of tayammum? There are conditions that, first and foremost, the intention. Due to the fact that tayammum is a substitute for a ruling, then it needs to have a niyyah. It needs to have intention. Because tayammum is a substitute for wudu or for ghusl. And because it's substituting either wudu or ghusl, there has to be a what? An intention. And where is the intention? The intention is in the heart. Meaning before you go to make tayammum, you make the intention that you're doing tayammum to lift the impurity, not the physical impurity, because tayammum doesn't take away the physical impurity if there is. That needs to be cleaned. And if there's a najasa on the person, they can't make tayammum to remove that najasa. That najasa needs to be removed. Aynun najasa, if there's an actual najasa on the person, that needs to be removed. And then they make tayammum. So first and foremost is what? A niyyah. To remove the actual, to make it as a substitute for wudu or for ghusl. The person has to have an intention. So they have to know what they are intending. They have to know what they are intending. And that's where a lot of people fall short when they come to pray and they come to stand to pray and so forth. People, they rush to the prayer and jump into the prayer. Now the prayer needs the person to bring forth, as the ulama say, istihdaru niyyah, to bring forth the intention for what prayer you are praying, and at the same time that you are praying for the sake of Allah. You are praying for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he forbade the person from rushing to make the prayer. From rushing to make the prayer. He hears the imam finish reciting, then does takbir, so he runs all the way around just to make what? Ruku'. And he walks and he jumps, Allahu Akbar, and then for the first couple of minutes he's catching his breath. That takes away from what? The khushu', the hudur in salat. The salat is not only the actions. The actions, the ulama say that the actions of salat are there to discipline the person. That you need to stand and you need to do takbir and there's rak'at. This is a need to discipline the person, a timing. But the main focus of salat is what? Khushu'. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. Verily the believers are successful, those who are what? Who have khushu'. What's khushu'? Khushu' means humility, means presence, means that you are standing there and you are present and you are understanding what you are saying and you are acknowledging that you're standing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And imagine person, subhanAllah, I always tell the brothers this, to imagine you're standing and you're talking to your wife and your wife is standing there and she's not even looking at you. She's looking, you know, when someone's looking at you but they're not, you blur out and then what's behind you goes into focus. So they're looking at you but they're not really looking at you. There's just, there's no one there. If a person has a husband, if someone is doing that to them, or their wife, or any man, or any person, you're standing there talking to them and they're just not there. So how do you expect Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept your prayer or to be your prayer worthy when you're standing there and your mind is somewhere else. Your mind is somewhere else. Like the husband standing and the wife's talking. He's standing there, he's looking, but he's thinking about 100 different things. He's planned out his whole night, and he's planned out what he's going to do, and the wife is standing there talking, he's shaking his head. Why? You're there, you're standing physically. We just stood for Isha. Physically, there's 3-4 rows. Everyone's standing. But every single person is in a different status, different position. One person is there complete, and the other person, his mind is gone. People come up with the best business ideas in their prayer. He's lost his keys, he finds them in his prayer. He remembers where he put them while he's in salat. And for the rest of the prayer, he's thinking, I've just got to go get my keys. Remembers that he needs to do this. Subhanallah, shaitan, Iblis, la'anahullah. Imam Ibn Qudama, rahimahullah ta'ala, in Mukhtasar Minhaj al-Qasidin, he gives that example of a man sitting under a tree, wanting to read a book, and birds keep on coming to that tree and singing and whistling in that tree. And he's sitting down trying to what? Trying to read his book. So that is the shaitan, that's Iblis, that's the shayateen coming and what? Trying to distract you. And then to get that bird away, he puts his stick up and he waves it, and the birds go. They go for 2 seconds, then what? Come back again. He says, what's the cureness for that? To take out the tree. To cut the tree and get rid of the tree. And that's taking the dunya out of the heart. So that there's no distraction in salat. There's no distraction in salat. And that begins with preparation prior to salat. Prior to salat. When it comes to the wudu, when it comes to if the person is in the masjid, coming on adhan and then sitting down and then doing istighfar, preparing themselves for the salat, preparing themselves. The iqamah goes off, gets ready, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, we're going to start the prayer, and then when the Imam says Allahu Akbar, then you enter into the salat. And that's when you find the khushu' increases. The khushu' increases. So to have the intention is what is the most important thing that the human being and that the Muslim has, the intention. إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. The ulama, they say that how many great actions have become so small because of the intention. And how many small actions have become so great because of what? The intention. Something small, but because the intention was sincere, that action became what? Became great in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So first it's the what? Is the intention. Secondly, it's having the excuse for not being able to use water. Meaning the absence of water. And absence is either literal absence, that it's not there, or absence in which the water is there but I'm not able to use it. So there's either literal absence, meaning that the water is not there, not to be found, or the water is there but I'm not able to use it. Either sickness, from fear, or whatever it might be, we'll mention them inshallah. So the non-existence of water is where the person doesn't find any water. Or the distance between them and water is greater than 2 miles, which is close to 2 kilometers, 1.8 kilometers. If the water is further away than 2 miles or 1.8 k's, as the ulama have calculated, means that the person is considered to be in the absence of water. But here, if you're standing in an area and you can see buildings, or you can see birds in the sky circling, or you can see traces of water, then that means that you have to what? You have to find where that trace is. Or if there's people around, you have to ask them, where is the closest tap? Where is the closest water? Where is the closest for me to use water. And this is, this condition or this situation was more relevant to them at their time because they used to travel a lot in the desert. They used to travel a lot on their camels, on their horses, and they can't take with them water. There wasn't much rest points and so forth. Today you jump on the highway, every K, 5 Ks or whatever it is, there's a what? There's a rest. You pull over, there's water, there's toilets, there's everything. Then they go into the desert, and whether they find water or not, or they lose their water, or they use it, or whatever it is. So here, if the person is in an area where there's buildings, there's a road leading to somewhere, there's petrol stations, there's gather, the person has to seek water until between the time of prayer ending and the next prayer beginning. You can't find water, then you do tayammum. Meaning that if the prayer or the time of prayer has elapsed and you're about to miss out on that time because you can't find water, meaning that before the time of prayer came, you saw buildings, you saw a road, and you went in search of water. You have to go, it's not a choice. You have to go and search. If you can't and the time is elapsing, then you make tayammum and you what? And you pray. You make tayammum and you pray. To show that, as we said, the rahmah that if there's no water, then you make tayammum. Meaning that there's no excuse to miss out on the prayer. There's no excuse to miss out on the prayer. How some people, subhanAllah, you find how some people take it so lightly. And for the smallest of thing, they'll miss out on the prayer. He's driving home, doesn't want to stop on the side of the road and pray. He says, I'll make it, and he knows he's pushing it. That he's not going to get home in time, and he continues going and miss out on that prayer. People have taken it lightly. SubhanAllah, they say, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he mentioned if a person he misses out on the day of fasting, obligatory fasting of Ramadan, intentionally, even if they were to pray their whole lifetime, they wouldn't be able to make up that day. Khalas, that day is gone. Even if you were to try to make up that day, your whole life, as a obligatory action, it's removed. If you make it up, it's gone. But to get the rewards for that day, you won't be able to make it. If the person intentionally misses out on the prayer. The water not being there, or the water is there but I'm not able to use it, either due to sickness, as we mentioned the hadith of Amr ibn al-As. He was scared that if he does ghusl, if he does have a shower, that he's going to die. He's going to become sick, or he's already sick and he's going to become more sick, or he's going to delay a sickness, or delay the cure of a sickness, and so forth. In that situation, they can what? Do tayammum as well. Or if there's extreme coldness, doesn't mean if the person's out in the middle of the snow and they have to pray, that they have to take off and they have to make wudu with the freezing water. That in itself, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you the permissibility to do tayammum. Person's in the middle of the snow is going to make wudu with water and so forth. That can have a sickness or can harm that person. So if there's coldness and they fear harm from it, they can make tayammum. Or because there's no city around, or because there's no means to heat up the water, then they can make tayammum. Or if they fear, they're stuck in the middle of nowhere, and they fear that if they use the water that they have, that they're going to die of thirst, or that they're not going to be able to be thirsty. Or because where the water is, there is an enemy. All of these have been mentioned by the ulama. That where the water is, there's an enemy there, or there's a fierce animal, or whatever it is, and they're not able to go close, then they can make tayammum. No reason for the person not to what? Not to pray. Or if it's a female, and she's in the middle of nowhere, and she fears someone harassing her, if she was to go to where the place of water is. There's only in a toilet or there's only in Kada, and it's not an area, there's no Muslims around, there's no one around. I know what she's doing there to begin with, but she's there and there's no one around and she fears of someone harassing her. Then she can also make tayammum. Also, as we mentioned, if the person is in prison. If the person is in prison and they have cut off water from them, then they can make tayammum. There is two opinions with regards to what is permissible to make tayammum with. The opinion of the Shafi'iyya and so forth is that it has to be dirt. It has to be soil. Can't be anything else. The Ahnaf, they are more broad. The Ahnaf said that anything that is from the ground, you can make tayammum. And you see the what do you call this? Granite, the mold, whatever it is, you can use it for tayammum. Person who's imprisoned in the prison cell, it's not like there's a bucket of dirt there for you to use to make tayammum. You can use the wall or the ground according to the Hanafi madhab, and that's facilitated it for a lot of people. A lot of people who are imprisoned, they're not given water, or they're given water just enough for them to drink. So subhanAllah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them that excuse and that ability to what? That ability to make and to do tayammum. Also, from the pillars of tayammum, meaning what do I do if I'm going to make tayammum? There are two pillars of tayammum. As mentioned in the hadith or in the verse, فَلَمْ تَجِدُوا مَاءً فَتَيَمَّمُوا صَعِيدًا طَيِّبًا فَامْسَحُوا بِوُجُوهِكُمْ وَأَيْدِيكُمْ مِنْهُ. Wipe over your faces and your arms with that dirt. Doesn't mean that you have to fill your hand with dirt and wipe it. No, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, ضَرْبَتَانِ لِلْوَجْهِ وَضَرْبَتَانِ لِلْيَدَانِ. On the dirt, on the floor, you hit your hands on the floor and then you wipe your face. Then you hit your hands again twice and you do your what? One arm and then you do the other arm. That's tayammum, finished. ضربتان للوجه وضربتان لليدان. Here there's two opinions with regards to, is it only the hands or is it to the elbows? The Ahnaf say it's to the elbows. Why? What's their proof for this? Their proof is that tayammum is a substitute for wudu. And the substitute for wudu is given the ruling of the action that is obligatory in wudu. What action is obligatory in wudu is washing the hands until the elbows. So here, فَغْسِلُوا وُجُوهَكُمْ أو فَامْسَحُوا بِوُجُوهِكُمْ وَأَيْدِيكُمْ مِنْ. The face, we know the face. And then the what? The hands until the arms. As we said, is the opinion of the Ahnaf. And the other opinion is that it's just the hands. Up until the wrists. Up until the wrists. So here, with regards to, as we said, 2 hits on the ground, and then you wipe the face, 2 hits on the ground, and the person wipes the arm once. Only has to be once. And that's it, that's finished. Tayammum is done, and it's very simple, and very easy to be done. So the first way is that to hit on their hands, or to hit their hands on the ground, and then to wipe over their face, and then to hit again, and then to wipe over the arms, and it's finished. That's what we call, or that's what is tayammum. But what nullifies tayammum? There's many other specifics, but they're not obligatory for us, or not a need for us to mention. What nullifies tayammum? Anything that nullifies wudu. Anything that nullifies wudu nullifies tayammum. Same thing with that which nullifies, or that which is need for ghusl. Also, what nullifies it is the removal of the excuse to make tayammum. Meaning that if the person now reaches water, that's it. That tayammum is nullified. It's gone. This minute the person sees the water, their tayammum is no longer valid. They have to make wudu and use wudu. Also, if they find sufficient enough water. So here, if a person has done tayammum and he sees water prior to praying, the tayammum is invalid. Meaning the made tayammum, he's about to pray, and then he sees water. That tayammum is what? That tayammum is invalid. Or if while they are praying, they see water. They say that if the person has done tayammum, and then subhanAllah, I don't know how, out of nowhere, water is in front of him now. Or someone has brought water. He made tayammum, and then someone came with water, and they are praying. Does that prayer continue or it becomes invalid? It becomes invalid. They have to stop their prayer, make wudu, and then pray again. Third, if they see water after they have finished their prayer. Did tayammum, praying, finish their prayer, and then has seen water. If the time of that prayer has finished, then he doesn't have to repeat it. Meaning that I prayed dhuhr, time of dhuhr finished, Asr came, I found water, I don't have to repeat dhuhr. But if he sees it, or if the person sees water before the time of that prayer ends, then they what? Then they have to, or as well they don't have to repeat the prayer according to the majority of the ulama, except in one of the opinions in the Maliki madhab. But the majority of ulama, even if the time hasn't finished yet for that prayer, it doesn't have to repeat it. Why? Because it's accepted. And it's regarded as a legitimate excuse for them to use tayammum and then for them to pray. And then for them to pray, and that's the opinion of the majority of the ulama. So that's with regards to tayammum, very simple. If the person doesn't have water, can't find water, is not, and he has lost hope in reaching water to pray the prayer that they need to pray, then they make tayammum. They make tayammum. Or if they fear sickness, that sickness will increase, they are traveling, can't find water, then they make tayammum. And it's very easy, it's not complicated. 2 hits, wiping the face, 2 hits, wiping the arms, and it's done. Very easy, very simple. Nothing, it's not complicated. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hasn't made it something that is what? That is complicated. Very easy. Why? Because if you make it complicated on the people, then the people are not going to perform it. Subhanallah, you understand the words of Musa alayhi salam when the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, when he came back, and only 5 prayers, from 50 to 5. 50 to 5. He first went to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and Allah ordained him with 50 prayers. And you know what the most amazing thing is that the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam was happy. The Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam was happy that he had been given 50 prayers. And he saw Musa alayhi salam. And Musa, as they say, asked someone who's experienced. Sa'al mujarrib, as they say. Musa alayhi salam, with his people, with his nation, went through very big hardships. Tell them to go right, they'll go left. He'll tell them to, they were very stubborn. Bani Israel, they're still stubborn till today, Nothing's changed. Very, very stubborn. Imagine Musa alayhi salam, something's young. Musa alayhi salam, the sea opened for them. They crossed the sea. Then the sea closed on the Fir'aun and his army. They were saved. And then Musa alayhi salam left them. Went to meet with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or he went to the order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then he came back and they were worshipping what? An idol. After everything they had seen, all the miracles that they had seen, he left them for what? He left them for a short amount of time. 40 days. 40 days he left them, came back, and they're worshipping a what? Ijlun lahu khuwar. Al-ijl, a calf that would make a noise. Khuwar. Because the air would go in from the mouth and would come out from the backside and it will make a noise. They were amazed. They became amazed. So they worshipped it. And then when they realized that they had been misguided, they came back to Allah and they came back to Musa alayhi salam. And that's when Musa alayhi salam took the beard of his brother Harun When he took the beard of his brother Harun, قال يا ابن أمة لا تأخذ بلحيتي. Oh, the son of my mother, don't take me by my beard. إن القوم استضعفوني وكادوا يقتلون. And Harun tried, but because he was alone, وكادوا يقتلونني. They nearly killed me. فلا تشمت بي الأعداء. Do not show the enemies that you are going to do this to me, or that you are doing this to me. ولا تجعلني مع القوم الجاهلين. And do not put me with them. Do not think that I am with them. Why was Musa angry? Because he told Harun to what? He told Harun to take care of his people. For subhanallah, yani Musa alayhi salam, he went through a lot with his people. And then when he told him 5 prayers, when he came to Musa and he said it's been reduced to 5, he said go back and ask for less, for your ummah won't be able to cope with it. Your ummah won't be able to have 5 prayers. He said go back, your ummah won't be able to handle it. And that's a lot of people today. Are you praying? On and off. I miss out on some prayers. I don't perform some prayers. I tell them, brother or sister, do you accept your spouse to be with you on and off? The brother, do you accept your wife and she's with you on and off? He says, no, of course not. I tell him, how do you accept Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How do you expect Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept for you to be with Him on and off? So it's very important, the salat, and even the absence of water together, no excuse. Even the people, tayammum is also for people who enter hospital. They can't move. They can't get out of their bed. They can't go to the bathroom. They got tubes in them to urinate into. They can't move out of their bed. Still, they have to what? They have to pray. If they're aware, they're awake, and they're aware, they pray. Tayammum. There's one brother, subhanallah, every time he'd go into hospital, he'll be there for a while. And he wouldn't be able to move from his bed. He'll take with him his clothes, he'll take with him some food together, and he'll take with him a bag of dirt. A bag of dirt. And he'll open that bag, do tayammum, pray, close that bag, put it on the side. Then next prayer, make tayammum, pray, put it aside. Preparing. He knows that himself is not going to be able to use water. He's not going to be able to get up. So his research, tayammum, he took with him a bag of dirt, subhanAllah. And the person, there's no excuse. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the understanding of the deen, and give us the understanding or the ability to perform the deen to our best ability. Inshallah ta'ala, next week we'll be speaking about al-khuf and wiping over casts and so forth, before we go into, inshallah ta'ala, the ahkam of prayer and so forth. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Every Muslim dreams to be up in Jannah, 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 Jannah. A pious person's destiny. Inshallah in Jannah, Jannah, Jannah.